Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to have you here with us in beautiful Venice. Maybe you could begin with a brief introduction to your film, Holly. What can people expect when they watch it?
Yeah, Holly is about this teenage girl who is seen as a special girl with a special talent. She's discovered by her teacher, and the film is actually about their journey together, especially how they can lift each other up, but also how they provoke each other's downfall. And what to expect of the film, I think there's it's a film that flirts with a lot of things, with a lot of jarn but especially it's a film about, for me, it's a film about friendship and what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a good, how people look at people who are supposed to be good people, about doing good, about believing. It's yeah. So
And I'm really interested, how it kind of came together. You're making that other film, Home, and you sort of had this collection of ideas, wondering, what setting you can put them into. And the first idea, of it being kind of the aftermath of a trauma was there, but it wasn't until later that you sort of came up with this character, with this Holly. So tell us a bit about, how the idea came about.
Like you said, I had this idea of making a film less narrative than this one, and I actually wanted to just say something about this traumatized community and try to make the community the main character. But it ended in a mess. It didn't work. I mean, it didn't work. I just stopped doing it because I got lost in it. But there was one character in there, a young girl, younger than in the film now, that I really loved, and that was Holly. She already had the name Holly, who was seen as this little princess, but also seen as a holy, something spiritual, because she said one tiny thing before the fire, and everybody was, or before the disaster back then, and everybody was convinced that it was a premonition and she had a special gift. But what intrigued me the most is the fact that as you can how people, especially in a grieving situation, how people needed to believe in something, and that you get a status that you might deserve, but you also might be like, but I don't really know what I said or why I said it. And that was actually the thingy that triggered me the most, to take that little girl out of that disaster story that I was lost in, and to really make a film about her. So yeah, I really like the idea of becoming like almost like a how do you say, common property, where people like, yeah, but you might be 15, but we want you to be that kind of thing because you have that talent, and everybody wants to have a piece of the cake.
And I'm really interested in this idea, of like the ambiguity, is there something supernatural there, isn't there? In a way, does it matter? Because if believing in something sort of helps people, like a placebo drug, if the result is the good one. Or you could even see someone like Holly, perhaps if, it's not a supernatural thing, this hypersensitivity that people can have. I was reading, you felt like you could be like that as well sometimes, and I know I can be, and it's whether that's a flaw or whether that's actually kind of a superpower in a way, to be able to sense how people are feeling, like very intuitively.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think partly I was like, if you want to believe it, it's there. And if you don't want to believe it, it's really very much not there. But maybe that's all part of the thing of believing. Maybe some people who believe in what way ever, they might also know it might be relied and not be true. But if you want it, you just do it and you just accept it. But also exactly the character of Holly, whether the whole film is about, is it true or not, does she have something or not, and whatever you make out of it, she surely has something that maybe is the first time for some people that somebody really understands them and listens to them, and about empathy, and about not judging and not giving advice like 5,000 sentences, but just being there and believing in that person who's sitting there. So the film questions not only if it's true or not what she can, but also questions this whole mechanism of not questioning like in judging it, but just it's a very interesting mechanism, I think, why or how people believe.
And contrasting her as well with the teacher, who's kind of more your straight down the line, like do-gooder, let's say. But there's also a question that arises there. Is there such thing as true selfless sort of
Yes.
altruism, or do people is there some element of selfishness there, you know, in the feeling it gives you to do something nice for somebody else?
That's a core that's very important in a film, but it's also a misinterpretation of Anna herself, but also in general, that doing good has to be something pure, because that was my main question also. Like you said, does it really exist to just do good only for the other person? But honestly, I prefer somebody doing good because he feels more relaxed afterwards than somebody who says, I never do good, because it's not 100% pure or honest. And I think Anna struggles with that feeling. That also the way she looks at Holly, she gets very quickly confused because Holly becomes a normal teenager kind of, and Holly is interested in new sneakers, and it doesn't fit her image of like pure goodness. And also for herself, she doesn't accept that she's actually a very jealous person, that she's very upset that she can, all very human things, human feelings, but she drives her crazy, because if you want to be kind of like Mother Teresa, you should not care about this, or you should just put them aside. And I think I like this idea about how we all have this perception of certain, an image of certain people, or how certain people should behave once you say that they are that kind of. It's like people who, I don't know, it's maybe weird, I haven't compared with that ever, but people who would say, I try to live as ecological as possible. And then people go, or I try to eat as less meat as possible. I go, that's bullshit, or you're a vegetarian or not. If you're not a vegetarian, it doesn't matter. Like, but you can at least try. You know, it's a bit that. You can also, life is more complicated than just being good or bad, or be a good person. I'm like, yeah, you can be a good person and then party hard afterwards and maybe take drugs and you're still a good person. And that's what Anna doesn't understand, I think. Or a lot of people around Holly don't understand.
And amazing cast across the board, but particularly Catalina right at the centre. You know, how did you cast her? And, you know, she's got such a specific kind of manner about her, kind of, you know, very delicate, but sort of, you know, an inner strength, which really comes across on screen.
Her. Well, the thing is, we just did the casting call, so just through social media, people came to the casting, and I think she came the first or the second day, and immediately we saw that she had an amazing talent. I don't know if she was aware of it, because she was aware of it, because she changed when you said do it like this or that, but she just did it, and she's like, okay. So we were like, okay, we already found the girl, like, whoa. But I was still not sure what she had to look like. And normally it's not such an issue, but because I thought, like, this girl, people said things like, you will see it when she's there, like Holly thing, or if she's in a crowd of 100 people, you will see that's Holly. And that's what I also maybe was looking for, like something like a saint, like, and then didn't really find that, and also I realized it didn't really exist. People don't come with like the tees above their head. And then I continued casting, just because also we had already stopped after the first day. I just continued casting. Then I realized Catalina was the best actress we could find. She was just the best. But also that's how I discovered that it was very interesting that Holly didn't have to be like this girl with the long blonde white hair and like the weirdo, that she had something very grounded and very like a teenager, just like everybody can be. And that was actually gold when I realized it's really interesting that she just doesn't look like anyone. She has a very specific face, but she could just blend with the other teenager if she would have other clothes and have a normal private life, I think. And so that was an extra we got during the casting. And then honestly I realized she's so good that she will play that thing that I was looking for. She will act, and she will give it to me in her acting and in her being, and that's what she did. So she was, I could have saved a lot of money if I would have decided the first day, just face it, we found her. I just kept on looking for her just for the sake of being able to say I saw like a lot of girls and she was her, but she was there from the first day. Maybe that was also a sign that she was in the first batch of the people we saw.
And when you were saying there at the beginning about sort of like mixing different genres, and I like that contrast between it feeling grounded and, you know, like quite realistic, but sort of sprinkling this, you know, supernatural element. I wonder if you took cues from other films that you liked or other filmmakers in that sense? How did you combine those different elements?
I did see some films again just to know because I'm not into the, I don't think it's horror genre, but like the really genre films. I'm not, and it's not that I don't into, I just not something that I specifically look for. But then I got like films, everybody talks about Carrie, so I'm gonna name it now because it's been said like a zillion times now. But I rewatched Carrie, I rewatched Suspiria, the first one, I mean the original one. I even rewatched things like Night of the Living Dead. I think I read so many things, but it was just for me to of course my film was far from those, but I was just like a refreshment on how do those mechanisms often work, like tension and a fear and a danger that's always there, which is tiny bit present in Holly, and then, but at the same time. It was also very important for me I for sure discovered when I was writing and I went a bit too far into that zone, that was so not interesting anymore because I have no power there. You know, when it became I see dead people, it was. I mean, I always use that sentence just to say I was like, what am I doing? This is what I've seen in the other films, and I'm trying to copy something. So every time I went, I flirted with it, and that was the idea. It's enough, and I came back to the more psychological part, let's say, or the very naturalistic part. We're actually just here with a teenage girl and a boy and a mother, and that was my savior because I mean, and also that was the whole intention, but. It was. I definitely also investigated. Does she have to do more? Like, should I go further into like, whoa, maybe she's really like a witch, but that was not my talent.
One thing that also strikes me is it's very female centric. There's a real female energy, and all the different female characters, and even some of the films you're mentioning there. And I wonder if there's something in that as well. And perhaps when we're talking about wanting to label people, wanting to judge people in a certain way. That's something that's also very true of women in general. You have to kind of be perfect in some respects.
I never really thought of it, but I am a woman making a film with women, so I think always there is things happen. I mean, just in general, when I write, people say it's autobiographic. Luckily not, but it's like probably like 50% of the scenes in the film. In a way, it's a memory, or also, of course, things you saw or your joke you heard or something like that. So inevitably, also the fact that you're a woman and that you're working with women, you put those things, not always conscious, and maybe luckily, because if you do it conscious, it becomes more like, it's like, so, and I think it's more in this film than in my other films. It's the most personal film I've made, and not because it's about me, but I think indeed, and it's also, I can feel it also when I talk about it, that it's much more related to me than, for example, my previous film. They were always very related to me because I wrote them myself, and it's always about what you see and what you feel. But this one even more, and I think it for sure has something to do about the way we look at people and the way we look at women and the way those two women look at each other. Let's not forget that Anna is not really helping Holly at a certain point. So.
And ultimately, what do you hope people will take away, in terms of going on the ride of the film, but, some of the themes, and what does it mean to you to have your film here in Venice? Because I know you've got a strong connection here, awards you won, being on the jury as well, so it must feel like a really great place for your film to be shown.
Being here, I already said before that when I have to express how it feels, I say it's all so cliche that I think people will be like, could have thought of that myself. But it is really true. When I say it's like a dream come true, it was my biggest aim. But it's really true. When they call you to say you're in the official competition, you go, wow, oh my God, wow. And that's the only thing I could say. Because with every film I try to reinvent myself. I try to understand why I make films. Is it worth making this film, telling this story? But also with getting older and making more films, I was also thinking, where do I want to go? Because you're not 20 anymore. So I thought, what? Of course you cannot just decide only by yourself. Where I want to go to all the awards, of course, but I mean, yeah, and so I think this selection came for me so at the right moment, the right time in my life that yeah, it's always the right moment, I think. But yeah, it made me. All of a sudden, I saw my film. All of a sudden, I trusted more what I was making. But also, all of a sudden, I had enormous energy to continue filmmaking. I wish I could say it's amazing, but I don't. It doesn't matter for me in my work. When I write, I'm like, it does matter. It really does matter.
Well, that's been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me.
You're
and
very,
really
very
enjoyed
welcome.
presenting the film
Thank you
here
so
in
much.
the competition.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you.